It was an afternoon in Tokyo, Japan on February 11th, 1990. Mike Tyson, 37-0, Scott. Buster Douglas, a 42-1 underdog.
A joke.
A joke.
A joke.
Don,
a warm-up
what did
fight.
Don King call him? A dog.
A dog.
Well, that dog decided to put together probably the greatest upset of the 1990s. Scott, it's our first episode.
And we're breaking down one of the biggest upsets in sports history.
It's the Mixtape, episode
right.
1, starting now.
Here we go.
All right, Scott, it's our first episode of the Mixtape. I drew the short straw. I got to pick the first basically sporting event because that's what we're going to do on this podcast. We're going to work our way chronologically, for the most part, through the 1990s. We're going to revisit the biggest sporting events, the biggest names, the biggest stories of the 1990s throughout that decade in sports. And we're going to start it off with what is arguably just one of my favorite sporting events ever, the Buster Douglas versus Mike Tyson heavyweight bout.
One could argue we're setting the bar way too high. I had that thought as we started looking at the rest of 1990. And don't get me wrong, there's some great moments, great stories. But there is something about the greatest upset or one of the greatest upsets in a sports history, if not all of sports history, that really makes it a little daunting to say that's going to be our first episode. Like, where do we go from here?
Well, here's the thing. When you do a pilot for a show,
Yeah.
you come out you just come out guns a-blazing.
That's
You
right.
want people to continue and listen throughout the season.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing right here. Obviously, it chronologically happened early in February of 1990. So that helps.
Yes.
That helps our case out
Yep.
without burning. But there's a lot coming in 1990.
Oh, there is. There's a whole lot coming.
I do want to start, though, by kind of setting the scene. We're going to play some clips of the original HBO broadcast, which I'm super excited about because it's all gold.
It is.
It's all gold. Tyson's 23 at this point, and frankly, he looks a little bored. He's 37-0, 34 knockouts, I believe. I think it's just like he's just bored at this point at 23.
Yeah, and there's a whole story just in that. I feel like just to think about he's 23, look at what he came from, look at what he has now. Basically, he's got the world in the palm of his hand, and that's not even a joke. He was the biggest athlete at this point. I mean, you could argue Jordan was about to kind of step into that spotlight, and there may have been some others on an international level, but there weren't any that much bigger than Mike Tyson in February of 1990. And you think about kind of where his headspace was with all this, and you can understand kind of getting bored, especially he'd been through some changes in his camp. He basically had just dominated everyone up to that point, which would maybe lead a young man into thinking, I don't really need to prepare for this that much, do I? I'll just knock this bum out too and move on to Evander or whoever's next.
He was the youngest heavyweight champion at the age of 20 in 1986. He was at the point of the Douglas fight drawing $22 million per fight, which in today's money, $53 million. So basically, he's Anthony Davis at this point.
Yes.
That was for you. So Tyson did not lack confidence, Scott. At the pre-fight press conference, he said, "I'm the most brutal and vicious, the most ruthless champion there has ever been." I mean, if there was swagger, here's the thing. It doesn't look like he has that swagger as he enters the ring.
Not at all.
There's a lot of chaos swirling around. He gets rid of his longtime trainer, Kevin Rooney, which at the end of this fight, there's a lot of pointing fingers in both directions. Basically Rooney says that Mike was never the same fighter after I left, and especially after Gus D'Amato died back in the mid-'80s. Tyson admits on the lead up to this fight to enjoying the nightlife in Tokyo. There's a lot of things. Now, some of that may be revisionist history just because of what happened. But, Tyson, by all accounts and by all accounts of others, was his team basically expected this fight to last 30 seconds.
Yeah, and I think we all did. I mean, hindsight's 20/20 on this, but I was telling you, Derek, that going back and rewatching this in its entirety, the entire broadcast from beginning to end, I didn't remember it that way. And I've not watched this entire fight again, I would think, since maybe a month or two after it actually happened. Obviously, you see a lot of highlights, you see documentaries that are kind of telling the story, but to really watch it and to watch the body language of both boxers coming into the ring, and it was evident to me on this second go round. And again, hindsight, we know what the outcome is now. But if you would have asked me, I would have thought he still stepped into the ring looking like the Terminator and looking just like he was ready to demolish someone, knock their head off their shoulders. But and we've actually got it playing right now on mute kind of as we're doing this, and it's actually at that point right now. And I mean, he looks like he would rather be anywhere else in the world.
So there's kind of been a little bit of, like I said, revisionist history in the fact that they said basically they couldn't get this fight sanctioned in the States because it was going to be, and the thing is that it was money. Mm-hmm. So Tokyo had been jonesing for a Mike Tyson fight. Evidently, they paid considerable amount of money for this, somewhere in the neighborhood of $6-7 million for the fight, guaranteed a $22 million purse, $1.2 million, I believe, for Buster.
Yeah.
So Buster's biggest payday.
Oh yeah,
by a long shot. Waiting on the other end of this fight was a massive, massive fight with Evander Holyfield that was going to take place like 6 months after, I think in August.
Sure.
So Holyfield is at this fight ringside.
Yeah.
There's some good there's some good commentary because Evander had evidently been promised $12 million for the Tyson fight. Like, he probably was wondering as the fight was going on and he's seeing Tyson get, just manhandled, if my purse is just shrinking.
Yes.
But that's another whole other podcast I'm sure we'll do at some point. But, Tyson at the beginning of this fight, there is some type of ceremonial thing going on, some type of Japanese ceremony, and Tyson has no interest in holding belts or doing that, and he just doesn't look like he wants to be there.
No.
He doesn't look like he wants to do. But before we get to that, I'd like to play you the open a little bit of the HBO broadcast because they're at the Tokyo Dome, which reports say seated about 60,000 at this time. They do a panning shot across the dome, and it is roughly 40%, 30 to 40% full.
Yeah.
For a Tyson fight, which they said was supposed to be the biggest thing to happen in this country to this point.
Let's hear it.
People don't look excited, Scott.
No.
So Jim Lampley was the legendary HBO boxing announcer. He's the play-by-play guy for this. Let's play a game called Do You Think Jim Lampley's Excited to Be in Tokyo for this fight?
Boxing. Tonight, undisputed heavyweight champion Mike Tyson's 10th title defense against the challenger James Buster Douglas. It is scheduled for 12 rounds. And a look around inside this soft-ceiling, air-suspended dome, not unlike the Carrier Dome in Syracuse or the Silver Dome in Pontiac, Michigan. In this configuration for boxing, it will seat 63,000 people. There's some debate as to how many tickets have actually been sold, but as you can see, there.
Now, at this point, Scott, they are panning to the middle and upper decks. The surrounding area of the
bad decision
is for $1,000 a seat. I think he says that around the ring is full, but it is sparse in that.
Do you think there was section. A guy in the van going, "Get off camera too, off camera too," as they were seeing that it was kind of empty up there? They're just like, "Kill it, go back to Evander."
I was wondering about the scalpers outside that were just like, "Hey, just go in and please buy refreshments for us."
Exactly.
It is jarring, honestly, to look and see how significant this event became, but how insignificant literally everybody in America and in Japan considered this thing.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense for everybody except for the people in Japan. Because again, the as you look back on this, they wanted this fight.
Yeah.
And I think they had the expectation of selling it out. And you would think if you're only going to get to see Tyson live one time because he's in your country at that point in person, you'd think it would sell out. I mean, you talk about Lampley, and that's understandable, I think, from almost anyone, because now they've flown halfway across the world. They are at a fight that they all think, I'm doing all of this for what might be 30 to 90 seconds of a fight. And then we're going to have to pack up and go home after this.
And this is, like I said, is Lampley excited to be here?
There are many empty seats. By no means a sellout. Attendance may be as low as 30,000 or less. But in ultra-prosperous Tokyo, all of the ringside seats at $1,000 apiece have long been sold.
Okay, so he says ultra-prosperous Tokyo.
Yeah, it's breaking
Get
down
ready,
economics now.
because he is going to make the strangest, analogy, metaphor later on in the fight. And I will point it out because I just was like, I have to play this for Scott.
Yes.
He has to hear this. So Lampley is just, he is just tremendous. And he is on the call with him is former champion Sugar Ray Leonard and boxing announcing legend, the chaotic Larry Merchant.
Yes.
So Larry Merchant is also on the call here, Scott, and we're gonna listen to just a little Larry Merchant, and just again. Do you think Jim Lampley's excited to be here? Do you think Larry Merchant's excited to be here?
When we get ready to call one of these championship fights, HBO boxing analyst, the well-versed Larry Merchant. Larry, what are we about to see? Another 90-second annihilation of an ill-prepared opponent?
Well, in the important game of expectations, this fight is over before it begins or soon thereafter. You have to remember that just nobody believes anybody can compete with Mike Tyson. In fact, Ed Schuyler of the Associated Press, when he arrived in Tokyo, was asked by a customs official what he was doing here. He said he was here to cover the Tyson-Douglas fight. How long do you expect to work? The customs official asked. Oh, he said, about 90 seconds.
30 seconds over Tokyo was the running gag.
Yeah.
It was probably the dad joke of the week.
Sure.
Do you think
Issued
that,
several times
how
on
many
Sports
times
Center,
do you
I'm sure.
think 30 seconds over Tokyo got issued? I mean, it was issued by Sports Center.
Yeah.
Charlie Steiner issued it several times on Sports Center. So they're going to make I'm almost done here, and we're going to move on to the fight. But the clawing for any kind of narrative, any kind of boost to this fight, because it's up against the NBA dunk contest, which was won by Dominique Wilkins. Mm-hmm. So nobody's watching this fight.
Good news is that Douglas has fought his best fighters against the best fighters he's fought, so perhaps we'll get a few rounds. Also, Jim, Douglas has a dog, a beagle named Shakespeare, and I believe that any prize fighter with a dog named Shakespeare can't be all bad.
What does that mean, Scott?
I don't know. They were really struggling for a line. I mean, why weren't we already talking about Buster's mom?
Well, that's
at this point.
And
I know it was in the pre-fight.
Yeah, they get there, but
what's the dog have to do with it?
It's literally I have made so many pre-game notes, pre-match notes, pre-fight notes. I have to work some of this in. And I guess Merchant's a huge Shakespeare fan. Well, here's Lampley on the save. Are you ready?
Yes.
Buster Douglas tells us that his favorite Shakespearean play is the romantic tragedy Romeo and Juliet.
How does this get asked?
I don't know.
How do you get to a point with Buster Douglas and somebody goes, hey, you love Bill Shakespeare.
Yeah.
What's your favorite play? Now, Douglas, on the other hand, big movie guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could have been just mixed in. Eloquent in some, for a boxer, eloquent.
Yep.
So here's Lampley.
Surely if Mike Tyson were asked that question, he would choose something more bloody and violent. Perhaps Henry V or Macbeth. Here now, a look inside the violent boxing mind of the heavyweight champion.
Oh my gosh.
What is going on here?
Yeah, the way they frame Tyson this entire time is it's really unfair on both ends to Buster and Mike. But I mean, for Mike, it's really like, and I can't, thinking back to 14-year-old Scott when this fight happened or whatever, it was probably similar as to how I viewed Mike.
Yeah.
Was just like an absolute. I don't know that I would have just said violent so much, but I mean, you go back and watch some of the fights leading up to this one, and it's, that is definitely a word that could be used, but just dominant is what I would have thought. And, something that we hadn't really seen in a long, long time, if ever. But, I don't know. And I will say this. In rewatching it before this, I didn't really get too down on Lampley until now. You're kind of driving me down on Lampley a little bit, but man,
the point of this
Larry
podcast.
Merchant, what?
He's wheels off in this.
He
thing.
is wheels off, and he's
wheels
someone
off.
that in my mind, again, I was thinking, oh, this guy's just a legend, and he probably is.
No, he is
again
for this reason.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But and
I mean, is there a more theatrical sport at this point and leading up to this point than boxing?
Yeah.
I mean, it is the most theatrical sport.
Yes.
So you have to have carnival barkers.
Yeah. And
Larry
Tyson
Merchant.
absolutely just put the sport on his back. I mean, I don't know. Again, my thought on boxing prior to Mike Tyson was very little. I was focused on baseball, football, basketball, and boxing was definitely just the backdrop of it. I remember my dad kind of being into it and watching it a little bit. But then when Tyson got there, everyone our age all of a sudden wanted to watch boxing.
Oh, for sure.
And every fight he had and replays of every fight he had. And so he was huge. He was bigger than the sport.
He was the guy.
Yeah.
And a lot of that had to do with the video game.
Sure.
But, nobody thought he was going to lose.
Well, and he crossed that line, right? Like athletes do into pop culture. And all of a sudden he was like bigger than the sport, and he was someone that was, photo opping with Darryl Strawberry and Dwight Gooden and
then also the off the I'm gonna say off the field stuff with his wife Robin Givens, and
who was
everything.
also giant at the time,
and he admitted to some not so great things at that point, and he is kind of an enigma, and but also just somebody you can't take your eyes off of.
No.
So I do have a couple of things here back to Larry Merchant real quick. As the two, gladiators are heading into the ring. Merchant's got a vamp. Do you think he wants us back? 2025 edition.
Has turned this phase of a fight his favorite phase. He calls it like going out on a date. It's finally going to happen. Of course, his idea of a date is wham, bam, thank you, sir.
What?
So he said, now this is pre-conviction.
Yes.
But he did say Tyson's idea of a date is wham, bam, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Strange.
It is.
He probably would want that back in hindsight.
I would think so.
So the fight begins, and right off the bat, Scott, Buster's here.
Yes.
He's just pummeling Tyson. He's out punching him 3-1, basically in the early rounds. He's using a jab to bludgeon the left eye of Tyson, and he's got a significant advantage in a variety of categories. He's 5 inches taller, 6 inches taller. He's got a 5-inch reach, and I think he was 10 pounds heavier at the time of the weigh-in.
Yeah.
So he's got a significant physical advantage to Tyson, and what he's not doing is he's not letting him get close.
Sure.
He's keeping him at bay.
And again, you go back to the disinterest of Tyson. When he does get close, we don't see that normal Tyson thing. You know what I mean? I think I talked to you a little bit about this a few days ago when we were talking about the fight. That was always like the scary move to me, is when Tyson would bring his hands up to his face and bring his head down.
Yes.
Because generally he was getting under you and he was about to like hit your chin and knock your head back so hard that we saw so many times. And so But Douglas would kind of keep him contained, and then
when
they
he
would just kind of
try
hug.
to do that, Douglas would tie him up.
Yes, exactly.
And just the strategy
Yeah.
from Douglas, but also like you can see it on screen. Douglas is 230 and he looks great.
Yeah, he does.
Like he's cut and he's lithe and he's moving and he looks like he's in incredible shape. Now he was almost 7 months of training before this fight. Now I'm sure he didn't train for 7 months, but he had 7 months between his last fight and this fight. So he was just ready to go.
Yeah, just absolutely determined.
And I know we're going to get into what he was dealing with before the fight, but it is worth mentioning now because I'm sure we're definitely going to talk about it later. But he's also a man that's having to deal with grief because his mom dies 2 weeks before the fight.
Yep.
And there was the question of whether or not he was going to fight. Well, he had 1.2 million reasons to fight.
Exactly.
And he also had been training for this damn thing for 6 months. Like he was ready to go. And I think in a way that allowed him to move his focus away from his mom and go, I've been doing this thing for 6 months. I'm going to keep pushing forward. But, it's you can't argue that he is an inspired boxer the moment that first bell rings.
Yeah. And you talk about the money. I remember one of the quotes I heard from an interview with Buster was how he said a lot of his friends and supporters would say to him, you can't find a better way to earn $1 million than this.
Right.
Like, everyone around him is doubting him,
Yeah.
basically. I'm sure he had those close to him in his circle were very much believing him or believing in him and lifting him up and kind of getting his mind right for this fight. But I think at the broad level, even some of his friends had the same thought that, Lampley and Merchant and Steiner and the rest of the world had, was just like, is this really worth $1 million to go in there and get your head knocked off by Mike Tyson?
And for Buster it was, but he also and his camp believed differently.
Sure.
They really did. Buster is not afraid coming out of this. He has an agenda. He has a strategy. He executes it literally off the jump. He's not waiting to feel Tyson out. He's going to jab. He's going to jab. He's going to jab. If Tyson gets close, he's going to tie him up, and he's going to try to keep him at bay and keep moving and keep being aggressive.
Yeah.
And the first the first 4 rounds, like it is executed to perfection. That's one of the things I think when we were doing our research and we were talking back and forth when we were watching the fight, the thing that I was taken most by is that this is not a fluke. This is not, Tyson didn't slip and fall and he caught him right. Like
this isn't the ball going between Buckner's legs
this is
or something
not
like
the
that.
ball
This
going
is
between Buckner's legs.
This is just dominance, basically, from the
here's
beginning.
thing, this is a really good fighter.
Yes.
That from time to time his desire would be questioned. But today, on February 11th, 1990, his desire was absolutely in that ring to go for 36 minutes if he needed to.
Yeah.
And it comes across, I mean, literally from jump, like, we've got it running in the background. Look at Tyson in the corner right now. Like he looks dazed.
Yeah.
He just looks like, and that was always the thing too, right? Was that if you can just keep Tyson going, if you can just outbox him.
Yeah.
But, through 4 rounds, Douglas has really got this in hand. Everybody's pretty much got him. We can get to the cards here in a little bit, but everybody's pretty much got him winning this fight 4-0 right at this point,
Sure.
40-36.
One of the other interesting things I heard Buster talk about in an interview after the fact was that he had been on an undercard, maybe the fight before this or within a year or two before this fight. He'd been on one of the fights on the Tyson undercard, and he talked about just getting to see Mike and being around him in that setting, and how that it hit him at this point that he's only human, and he talked about how that mindset really helped him overcome. And he'd already lost that even, before he even started training and had booked this fight. I don't think he saw Tyson the same way as the rest of us did, especially, for, us and maybe fighters that hadn't been around him, where all you're seeing is, him knock Spinks's head off
Right.
or whatever the case might be. So, and again, that's different for everybody, how you might view that and how you might handle that experience, I guess. But I don't know. And then talking about Tyson, the other thing I really noticed as we were rewatching this right from the beginning is just no one in his corner has any interest either, and you would think this is
Right.
the moment.
Yeah.
After a first round, you've identified this
Yeah.
is a problem. He's not engaged. That guy is very engaged,
Yes.
and this may not go our way. And they were ill-equipped, underprepared for what was coming. But the thing they could still control was their energy level. And at some point, I just felt like there's not really a point until much later in the fight where they're kind of, trying to get into Mike's mind a little bit and get it redirected. I feel like up to this point, there's so much more. We talked about how his corner is now full of yes men.
Yes.
And that's how they're treating it. They're
Right.
just saying, okay, champ, you're good, champ. You're going to be fine,
Yeah.
champ. Instead of, we need to change things, champ.
Yeah. But you have to think as the fight progresses that they know that he's still got, the knockout blow.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
It does happen.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into that, the 8th round soon enough, but I was just really floored and taken with how good Buster was in this fight.
Yes.
Like everything that I had been led to believe leading up to this is that, Tyson didn't show up, and he didn't. But if it's anybody else and they're functioning at 85% or 90% of what Buster's doing right now, like Buster is fighting a perfect fight.
Yeah.
And it still almost wasn't enough.
I know. And you're exactly right. And that's the thing I was thinking just then as you were saying that was just like, this is such a good fight. And we're sitting here talking about how Tyson doesn't want to be there. He's
Yeah.
not engaged. His corner is not prepared, and they don't have the things they need to help him. And he just seems like he doesn't want to be there. And somehow, he still makes this into a very good fight, you know. And again, you're right. Had this been almost anyone else, it's probably over in round 4 or 5.
Well, I'd like to play a little bit before we get too far ahead in the, where this thing gets decided. You can hear Lampley and Merchant. If there was any shenanigans ahead of time or any lack of interest, as soon as Douglas comes out and starts to do what he ends up doing early in the fight, they redirect super quick, and they are just shocked that Douglas is able to do this to Tyson. So here's a little bit of basically Tyson just taking some punishment.
Okay.
Mike Tyson to reach in. When you reach in, that's what happens.
Another good right hand and a good right uppercut and 2 more good rights by Douglas. I don't think I've ever seen Tyson absorb that kind of a 4 or 5 punch combination before in his professional career.
Now, Mike.
So Tyson is out punched, the punches landed 52-16 in the first 2 rounds. Mm-hmm. It is just a absolute destruction 2 rounds in.
Yep.
And he's still the left eye is starting to swell already. It goes back to the corner. They didn't bring, from what I understand, they did not bring an iron, one of those irons that kind of presses that inflammation away.
Sure.
They have you and I have joked about this. They have what looks to be a massive rubber glove that has been blown up like a Thanksgiving turkey full of ice.
Yeah.
And they're trying to apply that to his eye. And it happens pretty early in the fight because that eye is starting to swell and shut very quickly in this fight. And they know that if he's a one-eyed fighter, they're in trouble.
Yeah, and I remember in the years following this, and it was probably several years as the story was being revisited, maybe 10 years later and so on. I never knew what an inswell was until this,
Right?
And that's what that's called,
The inswell. Yeah.
And the argument that the corner didn't think they would need it.
Yeah.
And I said to you it would fit in your pocket. It's not like it's a giant piece or anything. This is something you can hold with one hand and tend to the boxer with. So the idea that they didn't think they would need it kind of is absurd to me. I just feel like it was ill prepared. And
it also speaks to the arrogance and
Yes.
lack of.
And I'm sure there was
dedication
some of that
in preparation.
Yeah, I think to me it's a mixture of all of the above. But to not have that piece just in the off chance. I mean, it only takes one good shot to probably have some swelling occur, especially around your eye. And again, I have a hard time believing it's 100% arrogance. I do think there was also just not prepared and not ready to do what they needed to do.
So, like we talked about, the first 4 rounds, Douglas is very decisive, and he's even better in the 5th round. So here's the end of the 5th round, and the tide is turned. I think any disbelief has pretty much evaporated at this point because he is absolutely dominant in the 5th round. It's his best round, probably in the first 5 rounds.
That left jab of Buster Douglas is a measuring stick. Very strong. Watch it come out, and then he drops the right hand.
Well, I think you'd have to say this is the most trouble Mike Tyson has ever been in at this stage of a title defense.
This is the most trouble Jimmy's ever been at any stage of a title defense.
So it's like by round 5, they're all believers.
Yes.
That this is, if not on the verge of happening, like if this thing continues in the method it's continuing in for the next 7 rounds, the Buster's going to win. That he's dominated. So, nothing really changes from the 6th to the 7th round at all. It's still it's still dominating.
Yes.
Like he's still dominating. But things do change, in the 8th round. And it happens very interesting. Like it's a very interesting... It's why boxing's special.
Yeah.
Because it happens so quickly and so suddenly. And this thing, it's kind of like, what I was thinking about, because I've really grown to love English soccer, is that you can play an amazing match for 90 minutes, it be 0-0, and then you give up like a crappy goal and you lose 1-0, even though you've dominated the match for 90 minutes.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy because that's exactly what happens. I mean, Buster's even in the 8th, I think he's still in control of it. And I mean, the way he would say it in interviews I listened to after the fact is he kind of took 1 or 2 seconds to take stock in where Tyson was in terms of his eye and everything else. And that 1 or 2 seconds of taking focus off of what he was supposed to be focusing on, and Mike made him pay.
Yep. It's the end of the 8th round, Scott. We got about 30 seconds left, 25 seconds left in the 8th round, and this is what transpires.
Well, there's just no question which is the more confident fighter now. You see how easily Douglas is dominating the action inside.
And Tyson is holding on.
I've never seen this happen before with Mike Tyson.
They're tied up on the ropes.
Here he's against the ropes. I've never seen.
And
There's a right hand uppercut, and down goes Douglas. As suddenly as that.
Can he beat the count?
He got a little overconfident. Got a little loosey-goosey. Still wobbly. Let's see what Mike can do to finish. And the bell ends to save Buster Douglas at the end of round 8.
so there's
a lot
They get tied
here.
up on the ropes with
Yeah.
about 13. I did this like the Zapruder film.
Okay.
Like 12, 13 seconds left, 11 seconds. They get tied up on the ropes. And then they kind of break apart a little bit. But Buster is Tyson's on the ropes. Tyson's back's against the ropes. And Buster gets a little too close.
Yeah.
If Buster had just backed up and let the round finish out, which he should have, because he heard the sticks at 10. But he's at this point of the fight, he's blood's in the water. And he is going for, you can tell he's starting to become a little less disciplined. And he's looking for that knockout blow. And he gets too close to Tyson, and the thing in Punch Out in the video game where Tyson would get low, do the little triple hop,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
knock you out. That's what happens to Buster.
Yeah.
And he catches one squarely on the chin and goes slack and falls straight on his rear. And there's some, obviously there was some controversy at the time that it was a long count. There's a video, and have you seen the video on YouTube with both knockouts, both knockdowns?
Yeah.
And the count is like simultaneous.
He's consistent.
He
at
is
least.
super
He is
consistent. There's a point in this count though where he looks over, I guess, at the official timer, and I've read that as my limited boxing knowledge that sometimes they would basically set the count or make sure that he was on the right count, that he would look over to make sure. But they're consistent.
Yeah.
Don King tried to file a protest at the end. Mm-hmm. It made it a huge mess afterwards and really kind of stole a little bit of the glory. But that knockdown, Buster does not get up until about 9.5.
No, he doesn't. Now, again, in rewatching it now, I feel like he took about to the 5 count to really, and he'll tell it like he kind of was making sure all of his faculties were good.
Because he looks at it's like 6 to 7.
Yeah.
It looks like he looks over at his corner.
Sure.
Basically like waiting for a thumbs up. And I've heard him say that he was just trying to gain his faculties.
Yeah.
Because, he did.
And then after that, you've got another 4 or 5. And I think they're trained to do that. They're trained to wait till 9, and
it is threading a needle, though.
Yeah, it is
because
very much
that
threading a
official
needle.
could easily look at him and go, if he wobbles 1 inch this way or 1 inch that way, he could easily say
a
this
wobble, or honestly, if his face looked like Mike's does right now, if he had one eye almost swollen shut, I think it would have been called.
Mike's face, when it's Mike's turn, it's Mike's face, and then Mike's is not steady.
No,
he wobbles.
not at all. He kind of falls into
the
the referee.
So he Saved by the Bell. 60 seconds in between. I believe 60 seconds or 2 minutes. Anyway.
Yeah.
You know what's about to happen. Tyson has knocked him out or knocked him down. So in the first 15 seconds of this round, you are about to just get a full-on assault if you're Buster Douglas. And that's exactly what happens. Yeah. He gets a full-on assault, and he withstands, and then about 60 seconds into the round, he returns volley.
Yeah.
And you can really see at that point that this is when the fight's over. Because Tyson's energy, if you want to say momentum, whatever you want to call it, comes out just guns a-blazing. Buster withstands and then just starts throwing some haymakers, and Tyson is slump shoulder at that point.
Yeah.
But that 9th round, I'm really curious what you thought about that. That 9th round is arguably, I know it's probably the best boxing round easily in the 90s, if not, the last 25 years of that century. Was this 9th round. It's if you love boxing, like you're on your feet the whole time.
Yeah. And I would agree in that was my mindset then. I think then in 1990, young Scott was thinking Tyson's got this. He's going to come out and this is over right here, because again, you go back to the blood in the water, right?
Yeah.
And like what you said earlier with Buster, but Buster does withstand it, and then he turns the tide on him about halfway through the round, if not a little bit more, and you can really then see, like, that's when, to me, Tyson lost the fight right there. He'd been beaten throughout the entire fight. He had this one momentary glimpse of, I am still fast and powerful when I put it all together. But then after that, I think when he doesn't get Buster knocked out in the first half of the 9th round, there's definitely, I feel like he just knows at that point, like, this is not, I cannot keep up with this guy. And then when Buster just starts returning the shots, he's just setting up for the inevitable what's to come.
Yeah. We mentioned it.
And there it was, the knockout, literally. It's kind of weird. The fight's almost parallel to what we're talking about, which is pretty cool.
Well, I just, the point of the appeal of the podcast for us is that we get to go back on YouTube and watch these events, and our 12, 13-year-old minds at the time could, never process what was really going on. So
Sure.
To be, in our late 40s like we are, and I was blown away by how entertaining the fight was.
Yes.
Like it's I haven't really been into boxing in a long time, with the exception of you inviting us over for the occasional Jake Paul fight. And, if Snoop Dogg and Pete Davidson are there,
Yes,
with some Justin Bieber in the middle,
a little slap fight going down in the basement or whatever with Pete Davidson.
Yeah. If that's on the card, I'm in. But I really haven't paid attention to boxing in years, in a really long time. And I probably would say that the children of the '90s, probably there's a lot of us that would say that. But it made me want to go back and watch, and I'm sure we will work through some of these, like the Holyfield Tyson fight and stuff like. It made me want to go back and rewatch that stuff, and go back and rewatch early Tyson, because by all accounts at this point, when he loses this, he's not the same after that. He's about to go to prison for 4 years. He's obviously not the same coming out of that ordeal. So I really just had such a good time watching this match.
No doubt. And I think it did spark that same thing in me. But the fight I really wanted to watch, and I wanted to try and do it before we did this, but was Buster Evander.
Yeah.
Just because we all know, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, but kind of where Buster goes after this fight and where the rest of his career kind of goes. And just to kind of see, and you're right, thinking about Evander, and they keep flashing to him during this. I swear, I feel like you see a lot of Evander, and then you see a lot of Trump and Don King sitting in the background throughout this fight. Like they're in this shot right here. There's Trump.
They are.
And but Evander, I do wonder in his mind at that point was how much of it was money. How much was he thinking this is screwing up everything for me? Or was he also thinking, now I'm about to fight for the belt and I don't have to fight Mike Tyson?
I think it was very mixed.
Yes, I would have to think like a little bit. Again, I don't think any of these guys, and I don't think Evander was scared of Mike Tyson, but I do have to think he thought Buster, just like the rest of us, Buster's a chump.
Right.
And he's a dog, as Don King would say, and he is a quitter, as he was labeled a lot in his career prior to this. And Evander might be looking at it thinking like, okay, well, I can take a little bit of a smaller payday, beat this guy, get the belt, and then I'm naming my price after that. And
but it's also that dual-edged sword, because if you go out there and Tyson cleans your clock in 30 seconds, it does significant damage to your career.
Sure.
What you can draw.
Yes.
We move to after just an incredible 9th round, we move into the 10th, and you can see that unless Tyson can somehow deliver another knockdown, another knockout blow, he's in trouble.
Yeah.
But the opposite happens, and we get this.
He's been a whole different person than the one every boxing expert expected to see here.
Tyson's eye is completely closed at this
Tyson is
point.
virtually a one-eyed fighter at this point.
Thanks,
You and Larry Merchant
A
are
desperate
just
one-eyed
insane.
fighter.
A desperate
Rolling
one-eyed
willingly
fighter.
just to try to get in the shot that will finish things in.
Oh, the uppercut.
What an uppercut by Douglas, and down goes Tyson.
So that exchange that leads to Tyson's knockout, it's the exact same thing that happened to Buster in the 8th. He gets low and delivers just a vicious uppercut. And Tyson is not moving at all. And they talk about it a lot during the fight. He's not moving his head. That was the whole thing with switching trainers, that there was no defense from Tyson, that Tyson was dropping his hands. He wasn't absorbing the blows. Obviously, his whole, left eye has turned into a basketball at this point. And the condom filled with ice is not helping Scott.
No.
So,
I would argue there was no ice in there. It just looks like a water balloon,
does look
basically.
like a water balloon.
It's on TV right now.
Right now.
I don't think there's ice in there. You can literally see the water just
My
sloshing around.
question is why is the air not out of it? Like, don't you want it to form fit?
Because they didn't know what they were doing.
It's so
I mean,
strange.
what's Rooney thinking right now? I wish, you know what? That would have been a really cool deal. And I'm sure it may be out there somewhere, but it's almost like, how on a DVD you get a director's commentary. I would like to hear Rooney's commentary on this fight, amongst others.
Sure.
I would love to hear even Evander's as he was watching this, what was really going through his mind.
Evander got interviewed at the end, and it was very diplomatic. It was basically like, you got to be ready every match,
Yeah.
But there's no telling what was going on in his mind, no telling what was going on in Rooney's mind, because there had to be a little bit of heartache because you had, gotten the champion to this point in time as, arguably the greatest fighter ever, heavyweight fighter ever. And then, all this work goes down the drain because he's basically being iced by a condom basketball.
Yes.
So, Tyson goes down, and I stopped it. Let me finish it. So at like 7, Tyson, you can tell it's over. But at like 6 or 7, Tyson is not trying to get up, Scott. Do you know what he's doing?
Look, like trying to get his mouthpiece,
He
right?
reaches for his mouthpiece and throws it in like from the side, like if you were hanging out between sparring sessions or something.
Sure.
Like he's gone.
Yeah.
Like he's gone at this point.
It's over. It's over.
Mike Tyson has been knocked out.
In contrast, Douglas gets up, looks like a tree. Mm-hmm. And Tyson does not. His arms are slack. And he's wobbling. I mean, he's done. Like look at him.
Yeah. I mean,
He's
honestly,
reaching-
both eyes look shut
To
right
me,
here.
it's like when you're listen, I don't drink, Scott,
Yeah.
but do you know like when you're drunk and then you decide like you need your phone in your pocket or you need like something, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks like you're just grasping for something that you feel like you need at that point that you really don't, which is his mouthpiece.
Yeah.
But Douglas's corner swarms him. There's a lot of guys in there that appear to not like I'm wondering like who these people are.
There's one guy that he's in the back now, they flipped off of it, but looks just like Geraldo Rivera. And I was wondering when I rewatched this, like, why is Geraldo Rivera
Geraldo out there?
and Buster Douglas, the foresight of Geraldo to, pick the new champ here.
Yeah.
To be in the corner of. Also notice, like, when it's over and everyone's consoling Tyson and you hear after the fact that he asked what happened.
Yes.
And someone says, you got knocked out or whatever. He kind of does this glare back at Buster. Not even it's not a mean glare or anything. It's more just like a, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he's not processing.
No, he's
at all.
In shock. And I mean, you get it why he's not processing for sure. But everyone just swarming. I mean, this would drive me crazy. I don't even know how he's breathing right now. There's just people all over him. There's a guy dressed like Eddie and the Cruiser standing there next to him. What is that guy? Who was that? He's got his hair slicked back. He's got a black leather jacket on.
There's just so much going on. And like the Japanese promoters have tried to handle this in a very elegant procedural way, but then you've got like these white guys you've got Eddie and the Cruisers jumping on Buster. You've got Don King, who we didn't know this at the time, but he's literally trying to protest the fight.
Yes, yeah.
At like immediately that he was given a 12 count in the 8th round.
Yeah, in the 8th round, in fact, you can see him get out of his seat and go down towards the judges.
Yeah.
Which I would think, I would assume he didn't get very far with that because I can't imagine that's allowed, but at the same time, he after the fact, I think Don is even the one that said that's what he was doing there. He was going to call attention to the long count.
Let me play this. Yeah, that's right there where Tyson's having to be told.
And you heard Aaron Snowell saying to Tyson, who apparently was unaware, you were counted out. KO.
So that's the point, where Tyson and his corner guy are talking back and forth, and Tyson is he is not of right mind at that point.
No.
He still looks dazed. He still looks confused. He still is out of it, and they have to basically tell him, hey, champ, it's over.
Yeah.
Huge moment in sports. Huge moment to start the 90s, Scott.
Yeah, just the shock, and like you talked about earlier, the number of people who were not watching it because they thought, I'll just catch the 30 to 90 seconds later on SportsCenter.
Well,
and because
HBO
the dunk
would
contest
just sit there and replay those.
Yeah. And then to hear about it, from people. I listened to a lot of people kind of recounting their moment of how they didn't choose to watch it because of those reasons we just talked about, and then finding out about it from someone else, and then going and getting it. In fact, wasn't that Shap's deal? Shap didn't watch it. Jeremy Shap, who did the 42-1 documentary about this, his mom recorded it and had to snail mail him the VHS so he could watch it. He's 6 or 7
years older than us.
Yeah.
Like he was hanging out. Like I think I told you. Like I was at a sleepover with like 4 other guys. We watched the dunk contest and then took one of those mini tramps out and tried to be Dominique Wilkins out there. So like, and then we came in and
I want footage of that too, honestly.
It's just a lot of sprained ankles, Scott. It's a lot of Eddie and the Cruisers trying to dunk the basketball. So I promised you, I'm going to wrap up my fight audio and then we're going to get into some other stuff. But I promised you that Jim Lampley was going to bring back Tokyo Japanese economics.
Let's hear it.
So he's post fight, and let me just give me your opinion if this is what we'd like to refer to as a shoehorn.
Okay.
He did knock Douglas down with an uppercut at the end of round 8, but Douglas came back to outclass Tyson in face-to-face exchanges throughout round 9. And then in the 10th, he took over once again and finished Tyson with the combination you saw.
That was a turning point, Jim, when he was knocked down in the 8th round, Douglas was, and he came back strong in the 9th round.
A heart as big as Japan's economic power.
What? Do you know, like, we always joke about this when Jim Nance is doing the Masters. And he,
How much better would Nance have handled this entire situation?
Here's the thing. I don't, basically, is it the night before in the hotel room? Are you jotting down these things to say? And I'm going to replay it real quick. I bear with me because I don't.
Came back strong in the 9th round.
A heart as big as Japan's economic power.
What does that mean?
I don't know. It's horrible, though. Absolutely horrible.
At the beginning, they want you to know that Tokyo is full of rich people.
Yep.
And then they want to let you know that these seats around the ring that these Tokyo businessmen are paying for $1,000 a piece.
It's ludicrous when you really think about everything going on, which we talked a little bit about his mom, and we're going to get way more into that, I'm sure, and just the 42-1 aspect of it, as you're the greatest underdog. I mean, I just think about, and I don't even know, if it's Nance who I remember doing this or whatever, but and again, golf's a little different for sure in terms of how they're calling it, but it just seems to me like you didn't even need to prepare.
Yeah.
Like, it just seems like you could have rolled straight into a line about basically, with his mother looking down upon him right now.
A heart swollen with grief.
Yeah, and we're all probably tearing up. We're all getting lumps in our throat. But we're not getting lumps in our throat over the economic power of Japan.
I don't know, dude. I got pretty misty.
Did you?
When I was watching it.
Gosh.
I was looking for the Kleenex. Of course, we have the post-fight. This is my last piece of audio.
Okay.
Because it's just, we got to finish with Merchant.
Oh, I already know what you're about to play. It's the most upsetting thing of the entire broadcast to me. It was.
Well, I have a feeling that we might be on the different things here.
No, I don't. Well, maybe.
It's basically Merchant not cursing.
Oh, okay. I did not catch that.
What was yours?
Mine was when he asked him, basically, how did you do this? And, whatever. And Buster says, my mom. And then you even hear people around him saying.
It's the guys behind him.
Yeah.
Because
he says my mom,
Buster
though.
is like every 12 seconds, somebody is having to use a full towel to wipe him down.
Yeah.
I've never seen a grown man sweat so much.
Like now, look, who's the guy with the behind him right now? What is that guy? A flannel shirt and a bandana on his head.
Yes, exactly. He looks like Dan Cortese.
And so, I mean, there's people all over.
But when they say, "Who did you do this for?" They all start screaming, "His mother, his mother!"
Yeah.
And then he's like, "My mom." Yeah. It's just like they're prompting him. It was very irritating.
But then Merchant, they say that, and instead of like grabbing it or letting that be enough and letting him have a moment, he says, "Well, tell me how that happened." It's like, what are you asking for right now?
I don't think Merchant can breathe.
No.
I think he's just being smashed. There's 97 guys right behind him.
Gosh.
There's freaking Lampley just
Perfect hair.
Sex
Perfect
appeal
hair.
to burn.
Yeah.
Okay, so he says this. I really just wanted to play this mainly because of what Douglas says.
Okay.
Because as he continues the interview with Merchant, he begins to get a little bit more. He begins to get a little bit bigger and broader in the shoulders, realizing his accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be me, and thank God that it was me today.
You hit him with some fearsome
I hit him
punches
with some great shots
early, and he
Larry,
didn't go.
That's great. That's great because you understand, like my dad said, you hit him with shots, let him take it. Like, oh, okay, you want to take a shot? Yeah, be a tough guy. Just keep chopping on him. Just keep chopping on him, and eventually he's going to go. And that's what happened. As you seen over there, he was flat on his ass.
That's right. Yeah. I think that tells the whole story, Jim. Mike Tyson flat on his, whatever you want to call it.
God, he had it.
Yeah.
Come on, Larry.
James.
So, it's just...
It really is. It's very interesting, that entire scene, because you get to watch him go from nearly breaking down as his mom comes up to really almost like not following what Merchant's saying and distracted by the chaos around him. He's got Eddie and the Cruisers on one side. He's got a ninja guy on the other side. And then there's people all over the place and bumping into him, grabbing him, toweling him off. And then you're right, to see that kind of moment. It's almost like you get to watch it hit him.
Yeah.
Like, I just did this. I just knocked out Mike Tyson. And I think that was, it's really an interesting just 2 minutes. I mean, we're talking about maybe 3 minutes all in of time there. So, I mean, it's to see him go from nearly breaking down to saying I knocked him flat on his ass. And
whatever.
Yeah, the confidence that swung there was big.
I came away from the fight, if you haven't been able to tell already, I came away with such respect for Buster's accomplishment.
Yeah.
I think that the way that I will think about him moving forward for the rest of my days is completely, totally changed because of getting into the literature, if you will, and watching the fight.
Yeah, and I think, again, 1990. We didn't know Buster's story.
No.
We got to hear, if you tuned in early before the fight started, they bring up his mother, and then obviously at the end it comes up. But even then, you don't really know all the dynamics that kind of got into that point. When you really get to sit back and look at that, like where he came from and what led to this point,
right?
And the same thing with Tyson. Just like everything that led to this point for both of these fighters, if there's any changes in that, is this entire outcome different? But it's not. All those sliding doors slid just right. And allowed for this amazing upset.
Douglas, after the fight, in the crush of post-fight media, told Playboy, "I don't know if I would have beaten Mike Tyson if my mother was still alive. That might sound strange, but her death gave me something I never had before. A reason bigger than boxing." So the question is, do you think Buster Douglas would have won this fight without the death of his mother?
Yeah, it's such a, we talked about that just briefly and we stopped because we knew that this would be something we'd want to get into originally on the podcast, but I don't want to say no. You know what I mean? Just because we'll never know. And I'm sure that it definitely it was weighing on him. And you do feel that, I can understand kind of feeling that sense of I'm doing this for more than just myself, and when you get to hear about Buster's mom and their history, she didn't want him to be a boxer to begin with, but there's also moments that you get to see extreme pride in her face while they're, and that's in the 42-1 when they interview him after one of his wins, and just how proud she is, but at the same time, how different Buster is from his dad.
Right.
But even here, I mean, you get to see it in this post-fight interview. Buster's still very much happy to please his dad. Like my dad told me, just keep chopping away and they'll fall, and
that's a whole,
that happens.
You and I have talked about this. That's a whole, the relationship with his father. His father was a fighter. and by all accounts, a very surly, stern man who did a lot of weird things before, during, and after this fight. Mm-hmm. And you know, we don't have time to go down the whole rabbit hole, but at a certain point, Buster Douglas and Don King get into a lawsuit based on money.
Yeah.
The post-fight, what's going to happen, and Buster is suing Don King. And Don King is having parties, and Buster Douglas' father is showing up to party with Don King.
Yeah, and it's not, you know, you see this in other sports with other athletes sometimes where the dad is almost living vicariously or living out their dream through the child, right? But this is different from that to some degree because he's still all about him. He's all about himself. 100%. The dad is, and almost wanting to, you know, that's the sad thing. It's just very much so wanting to take the credit for the success Buster had just had. When, again, from as you look into this, he had to let his dad go. Basically, he had to get his dad out of his corner to really kind of take this next step. Yeah. He knew he needed a different trainer and someone that wouldn't really have that same psychological impact that his dad seemed to be having on him.
You know, the narrative is easy to plug in that because his mom died, but there is some stuff there. You know, basically everybody in his camp said that he was different in that it was 3 weeks, 23 days, that 3 weeks in between his mom dying and the fight, the Tyson fight. His sparring partner basically said after his mom died, Buster didn't talk much. He just worked. It was like he was in a trance. I'd never seen him like that. The trainer said that they called it a spiritual preparation after that. And then, you know, Buster was training like a man on a mission. He'd wake up at 4 a.m., run in the dark. This is another part of his team. He told this too. He'd run in the dark, and then Buster would tell me, I can feel her with me. That wasn't normal training. That was something spiritual.
Sure.
You know, he would in that 3 weeks, he would watch old VHS tapes of his fights for those interviews with his mother and to see his mother. You know, it basically gave him, it gave him
a greater purpose.
Well, it basically, like, if this can happen to me, you know, like the reason I think that when he went to that fight, there was no hesitation, there was no fear, is because he was dealing with something that, you know, somebody in their late 20s doesn't really usually have to face.
Yes.
And it re-centered him, refocused him. So I am going to vote that he does not beat Tyson if his mother doesn't die.
Oof. Well, I mean, if I have to vote one way or the other, I guess I would vote along with you on that. But again, I think it's so, you know, it feels unfair to some degree to say that.
It does.
To you know, unfair to Buster.
Diminishes his accomplishment.
Yeah, but at the same time, it also lifts up kind of just what the power of something like that is on all of us, right? Yeah. I mean, it's big, and I think when you can kind of, I talk about this all the time with some other aspects of my life, but like. Anytime I do a lot of CrossFit and working out, right? But anytime there's a workout that is like dedicated to in memory of somebody, it may not even be somebody I know. It may be someone that was in the armed services or a police officer or a firefighter, and they get these hero workouts made up for them. You just operate at a different level when you think about those people and kind of, and again, that's kind of different from this aspect, but at the same time, you're kind of, I feel like he was fighting for more than just himself that night, and he was preparing for more than just himself. I remember, you know, when I first started looking into this, my feeling was that he was using his training to block it out, to not grieve.
Yeah.
He was just uber focused because he knew every time, if I sit still, it's going to come to my mind and I'm going to sink. And I think that happens a lot to people as well. But, and I'm the same after listening to not just interviews of Buster, but interviews of people that were around him. He wasn't doing that. I mean, he was very much in, you know, had her all around him at any point. Like you said, watching the videos just to see her on there. and to see her pride of him and his success. And I think that feels a lot better than thinking that he was just hiding from grieving.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a great segue into kind of the end of this. But, you know, he goes on to fight Evander 6 months later, biggest payday in history at that point, $24 million, which is
How amazing is
56
that?
or 57 million at this point.
Yeah.
I think after taxes, it was like 9. I think he got 9.
Do we know what Tyson's payday would have been had the fight happened? I know we thought Evander was
with
9,
Vander,
right?
Evander, I think, was going to be 12.
12.
I know Tyson was 22 for the Douglas. I would assume that
had
he
to have been
probably is
even
getting
higher.
close to 30.
Yeah.
I would think at that point.
Yeah.
You know, he, by some accounts, you know, that 6 months after the Tyson fight, he did the tour, and then some you know, things that happen to athletes with, I'm going to put my air quotes up, overnight success happened. There was some issues with his father. There was some issues with money because there were lawsuits and all kinds of stuff. I mean, we could do 10 podcasts on what happened the moment he gets that belt around his waist.
Sure.
But he was by all accounts disengaged, which has always been the knock against him before Tyson. I think did he last 6 rounds with Evander? I didn't do a whole lot of research.
No, I
on
read
that
about
part,
it, and
but
maybe he did.
I you know, he obviously doesn't win the Evander fight and then goes away for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
He basically retires, and you know, he is quoted as saying in kind of the following year, he's quoted as saying, after I lost my title, that he felt empty and that he had realized that he was fighting for his mother, not for me. And when that purpose was gone, so was my drive.
Yeah.
And he decided basically to hang him up. And
Well, good for him. I mean it.
Yeah.
Seriously,
No,
because
no.
I don't know that he was ever really, you know, it seems like, you know, when you look at those earlier fights, was he really that into it to begin with? Was he fighting
Yeah.
for his father at that point? Was
Sure.
he trying to live up to these expectations? But hey,
he
get your
had-
bag, and go do what you want to do.
Do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Now he got into some businesses and things like that, and you know, I don't think that basically, you know, I don't feel like he's a casualty where he
Yeah.
ran out of money. I know
He wasn't on broke 30 for 30.
Yeah, I
he
don't
wasn't.
think he
He
was on
wasn't a
broke.
repeat of that one.
What I did find interesting, and I was wondering, you know, kind of post when he was retiring, you know, just getting that itch. Basically, you know, the thing that I was interested in, you know, was basically the rematch is right there.
Yeah.
Like I would think almost like pushing that Evander thing to the side, you know, and it was Douglas's decision. It wasn't Tyson's decision. It was Douglas' decision what he wanted to do. He gets dangled $24 million, and then he loses to Holyfield. He goes away for 6 years. Now, there is a book that I had talked about a little or told you about. It's called The Last Great Fight by Joe Layden, and he touches upon this a little bit. That at a certain point over that 6 years, that Douglas gets the urge to fight again, and his onus was he wanted to fight Tyson again. Tyson goes away to prison, so Tyson's in this, you know, he's in his own personal hell at this point. But basically, that Douglas starts, you know, Douglas makes a comeback after 6 years, and he fights, I want to say, somewhere in the neighborhood of 6, 7, 8 fights. He fights 4 fights in 6 months, Scott, against a bunch of jabronis,
Yeah.
you know, and basically kind of clears them out. But his motivation during this time to get back into shape was to fight Tyson again. And, you know, Tyson had really no interest in fighting Douglas. There was some offers made along the way, but it was just basically like this was. It was basically like, we're going to take $15 million and you can have $750,000 if you want it. And they were like, that's an insult.
Yeah.
And it never, there was, you know, still some bad blood, I'm sure, on the Tyson camp side. And then just everything Tyson was probably just trying to cash out and you know, try to get back to Holyfield as quick as possible. But I was really that was interesting to me.
Yeah.
That his motivation, his impetus to get to train again and to come back, you know, in his mid-30s to do this was to fight Tyson again.
Yeah, I mean, well, and arguably the greatest night of his life, I'm sure. So wanting to rekindle that kind of makes sense. Now, again, also tells you that he didn't view it as a one-off situation. Like if you're going to go back and do that, you have to legitimately think I could beat him again.
Yeah.
And I could show everyone that I could do this again. Or, is it a payday? I don't know.
Right.
I mean, it's
Tyson's
probably a mix of all the above.
30 at this point, and then he's obviously in the twilight of his career, even it was 6 years off and then coming back. And he had gained like an obnoxiously significant amount of weight. Like I think he got in the mid 300s, and I think he might have either had a stroke. He had some type of episode.
Yeah.
There's a great Sports Illustrated article written a couple of years after the fight, and it's basically about his life in Florida. He moves to Florida, and the thing that always stuck with me, because I read it when I was like 14 or 15, was that he was so rich that he would walk into a video store with a empty brown box, and at the time videos were $100 a piece because it created a rental window.
Yeah.
And he would just pull the videos off the shelf and put them in the box, and then he'd go up to the counter and pay several $100s for that week's. And the writer talks about that Douglas would have 15 or 20 movies, VHSs at any point, on top of his TV. And to me, that was the dream.
Yes.
Was to have all those movies.
Wouldn't you love just to spend some time with Buster watching movies?
Oh my gosh, he was so. That's another thing in the Batman. He was quoting the Joker. He had gotten the Batman VHS, the original with Jack Nicholson.
Okay.
And he was quoting, "Can't wait till they get a load of me." Like every day, dozens of times a day, he would say it to anybody in his orbit. He would make that deal. But he was an avid movie fan, and I thought he was a very eloquent, very smart individual. With what he had to deal with. But anyway,
it just goes to show you, though, like, and I don't want to say all of them are like this, but when you really get to dig into the stories, because both of these guys, right, have these amazing stories. Like, I almost think you could take, you and I are both giant fans of the Made in America O.J. Simpson documentary, right? And I think you could have taken the Mike Tyson story and called it Made in America.
Absolutely.
And it would have been, again, not as tragic, but at the, still a lot of tragedy in it, and would have just been an amazing story. And I think Buster's, again, not quite at that same thing, but at the same time, his story is so unique because of his personality, his upbringing. I mean, he got offered a basketball scholarship, I believe, at a high school, and turned that down to again,
multi-sport star.
Please, Dad, right?
That's what they say during the broadcast, a multi-sport star.
Yeah, and I don't mean to just blanket it with please, Dad. I'm sure he was a very good fighter, and he knew that he could probably do well there too. But at the same time, he made all those decisions for a reason. And then, again, you talk about his mom's death and everything that came after that and leaving the sport completely. It's just an impactful story, and it really did change my viewpoint. Getting to research this and get ready for this episode really made me love Buster Douglas.
100%.
And watching even more recent interviews, just his mindset about that fight, and it's he's definitely kept the same line on some of it, but also he's more dialed back in some areas as well. But I don't know. It's just phenomenal. I will say too, one of the really interesting things to watch was Merchant, his show on HBO where he had Tyson and Buster on. Like 2 weeks later, they're sitting right next to each other.
And he starts them out. Honestly, we could do a whole podcast over that episode and just play audio. He starts them out with a handshake because of all the bad blood with the protests. Yeah. But there's, Tyson's very, to be honest with you, he's very unemotional.
And he handles it well.
He handles it extremely well.
Merchant sets him up a few times and he says, look, it wasn't me crying for this, crying for a protest. I just was saying it was a long count. Yeah. And then he never really fought back. But one of the disappointing things to me off the whole deal was watching all these interviews, and they would basically almost be like Sports Center or sports talk shows would have him on at the anniversary around February 11th of it happening. I'm sure he just did a media tour every year for several years and still does. And they all bring that crap up.
Yeah.
And it's almost like at this point, it's just tired, right? This is not, it's not a valid argument at all. It wasn't then. It's not now. It's stupid. It's belittling the accomplishment to some degree. Right. And it's sad that he still has to hear that every once in a while when he just put a man on his ass. And that's, it's plain and simple as that.
I think that's an ender.
Yeah, I do too.
First episode in the books.
That's
Scott.
right. That's right. The greatest upset in boxing history, if not one of the greatest upsets in sports history.
Douglas.
That's right. I think there could be a full-blown movie about Buster Douglas's life.
For sure, I'd
Maybe
watch
we'll
it.
do that later.
So what do we got up on tap for our next episode?
Coming up next, we're going to fast forward kind of 1 month to March Madness of 1990, but really we're going to examine the dominance that was the 1989-1990 UNLV Running Rebels. And again, you talk about sports stepping into pop culture and really, and again, we were sports geeks at this point in our life. We still are, but we all wanted to be Larry Johnson, and we all just got UNLV fever, basically. And even
who didn't chew towels?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I'm
Coach
pretty sure.
Just over there munching on a towel.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we all probably at some point put a towel in our mouth to at least see what it was like after that.
100%.
But yeah, just a lot to that story, and it's going to be obviously more than just March 1990, because to set that scene and how it all gets to the point of that is a phenomenal story in itself.
Can't wait.
Nope, should be fun. So until then, we thank everyone for tuning in. We are part of the Sports History Network. You can learn more about the network at sportshistorynetwork.com. We're excited to be here. Make sure you subscribe and tune in for the next episode.
See ya.
This episode is brought to you by Sterling Soap Company. Fellas, you've heard the phrase, look good, feel good, right? But why not add smell good to that too? That's where Sterling Soap Company comes in. First, Sterling Soap is 100% natural and has a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne. Second, there's a scent just for you. How about burgundy? Yeah, it's more than a color. The Sterling Soap folks blend natural essential oils with hints of mahogany, golden amber, and sandalwood. Or how about D503, an intensely masculine scent inspired by Legend by Mont Blanc. And third, you will feel good about the price. For just a little more than you'd pay at the grocery store, Sterling Soap will leave you feeling clean, refreshed, and ready for whatever's next. Give Sterling Soap a try today. Visit sterlingsoap.com.